How twisted can human nature become in a post-apocalyptic world? Merely stealing a bit of water led to being brought to the dam, and then facing this grim fate.
No!
Sweet Jesus.
Next!
Daniel was ordered to personally toss the woman off, the same woman who had once saved his life. Many longtime fans who have followed the show all the way through may know that Daniel has died at the manor. How did he get to the dam? Daniel, a 60-year-old man, was originally a barber at a barbershop in Los Angeles. When the zombie virus broke out, Daniel took his daughter and followed Victor to the manor. In his younger years, Daniel had been a military officer, his hands stained with the blood of countless lives. In his later years, he lived burdened by guilt and self-blame. Daniel often experienced hallucinations, and one day he set fire to the entire ranch, consuming all the zombies within. When Daniel came to his senses the next day, the entire estate was dead in the fire. Daniel's hands are stained with more lives than he can count, even as he believes his daughter and Madison, among others, have gone up in flames. Daniel can only drag his burned body along, and without food and water his body can barely hold on any longer. In a small town, he was pursued by a horde of zombies and sought refuge beneath a car. At the brink of being bitten, a man named Efren rescued him.
Te ves medio traqueteado, hermano.
All Daniel yearned for was a sip of water, but Efren led him to a desolate mall, leaving Daniel skeptical of Efren's intentions. However, Efren took out his watch and checked the time. At exactly 5 o'clock, water began to flow. Grab some water, turn on the stereo. This Efren is a social man too. Efren subsequently took Daniel on a journey. He wanted to take him to find someone who could cure Daniel's leg injury. They soon arrived at their destination, where several people were waiting. However, their arrival was followed by the arrival of Dante's men, who were searching for water thieves. Daniel was treated by a woman named Lola, who employed brutal methods to remove the necrotic tissue. Over the next few days, Daniel and Efren teamed up with each other to find supplies and kill walkers. Daniel's leg was getting better. That night, in order to repay Efren for showing him his talent, Daniel decides to leave in the darkness of the night. It looks like it's going to rain. Unfortunately, Daniel encountered a zombie, and now he is basically incapable of fighting. He thinks this may be his punishment. He knelt down and awaited his impending death. But the next thing you know, to Daniel's immense luck, but he also fainted by the river. After the torrential rain, 2 workers were clearing the dam's drainage channel when Daniel suddenly sat up, startling them. Fortunately, they had kind hearts and didn't turn him in, or else Daniel would have faced the same treatment as a water thief. They subsequently contacted the woman in charge of the water source, who turned out to be Lola. It turns out that Lola released the fresh water to Efren and the others. Daniel was then assigned to work at the dam, helping with maintenance and cleanup. One day, while dining in the cafeteria, Daniel encountered Dante, the leader of the dam. Almost everyone in the room stood up as a sign of respect, except for Daniel, who remained unmoved. Dante's men promptly approached, looking for trouble.
¿Por qué no te paras cuando entra el jefe?
Ese era el jefe. No sabía.
Cuando entra el jefe te paras. Cuando yo te hablo, levantas la cara, pendejo.
This man stuck his hand in Daniel's meal. What would you have done? Daniel's attitude was very strong. At this point, the boss, Dante, entered the scene, his interest piqued by Daniel's ferocity. Upon learning Daniel's true identity, Dante forcibly pried open Daniel's lips, revealing a marking inside, a mark that identified him as a member of the elite assassin squad trained by the Central Intelligence Agency, the Shadow Team. Dante, who ruled the dam, recognized a need for someone as ruthless as Daniel to deal with water thieves. He offered Daniel assistance in locating his daughter in exchange for helping him deal with the water thieves. Subsequently, they set out to find a thief, and Daniel knew that the thief in question was none other than his good friend, Efren. They tracked down a clue leading to the mall with a water source but found no one there.
Está seca.
Daniel goes back to the dam and finds Lola, who he tells not to let the water out again or her life will be in danger, but Lola insists or the people outside will die of thirst. They parted on bad terms. Soon after, Daniel spotted a figure he believed should have perished in the massive fire, Victor, filled with renewed hope that his daughter might still be alive. Daniel visited Victor's cell and offered him a jug of water. After drinking the water, Victor realizes that it is Daniel, and he can't believe that Daniel is still alive, and excitedly begs Daniel to get him out. Daniel, on the other hand, is concerned about whether his daughter is still alive. But Victor knows that Daniel's daughter Ophelia has left the hotel alone and does not know if she is still alive. Victor now has to lie and say that Ophelia is still at the hotel with Madison and the others. Daniel was very excited, but he quickly regained his composure. Victor, desperate to save his own life, spun a web of lies.
Save your life.
Daniel, wait.
You're a snake. Now, Víbora, place is perfect for you. You will rot here, like the dead.
Ophelia needs her father.
Ophelia is dead. Her father is dead.
And so are you.
Hey! Hey! I saved your life! I saved her life! You owe me!
Shortly afterward, Dante summoned Daniel to deal with the captured water thief. Daniel was stunned to see that the thief was Ephraim, but he had to feign ignorance. Otherwise, even Lola would be executed. Dante knows that Daniel used to be an assassin, so he asked Daniel to show some harsh methods to force Ephraim to reveal the mole who cooperated with the water thief. In order not to arouse suspicion, Daniel can only endure the pain in his heart to torture Ephraim. Just when Dante told Daniel to do it, Lola couldn't stand it any longer and admitted that she was the mole. Anyone who steals water will be thrown from the dam. 4 people, including Victor, were to be executed. Daniel was the executioner. The first man was thrown straight over the dam by Dante, and Lola panicked. It's not the death that's scary, it's the waiting for it. Daniel hesitated to push his savior off the dam.
Venga, Daniel. A ver, Jesse, hazme el favor.
Sí, patrón. Muévete, güey.
Dante is still trying to convince Daniel with his words, but he's dealing with a cold-blooded killer who used to be in the CIA. As a result, the control of the reservoir fell into the hands of Lola and Daniel. The next day, Daniel asked Victor to take him to the hotel to find his daughter. Victor had no choice but to stick to his lies. However, when they arrived at the hotel late at night, they found the place had been overrun by zombies. Victor has no choice but to tell the truth, but Daniel doesn't believe him anymore. This Victor lies so much that Daniel intends to leave Victor to his own devices. Then Daniel drove away. Whether Victor would survive became a mystery. How cruel can human beings be in the post-apocalyptic world? They skinned an elderly man's scalp, allowing crows to peck at him while he was still alive. Madison and her group were utterly shocked by this gruesome scene. A few days earlier, the plane from the farm had come under ground fire from other survivors and Travis had died. The aircraft crashed into a valley. The farm soon organizes an investigation to find the killer and get revenge. Madison was the only woman in this team, but she showed no hesitation when it came to dispatching zombies. Her actions garnered newfound respect from her previously skeptical teammates. Under Troy's leadership, they swiftly reached the crash site. However, aside from some traces, all remnants of the aircraft had been removed by others. Witnessing the crash site was emotionally difficult for Madison, as it reminded her of her husband's death. Moreover, they were no longer dealing solely with mindless zombies but with ruthless human foes. Subsequently, they investigated a nearby survivor camp. Upon scouring the surroundings, they discovered a horrifying sight. All the people there had been burned alive. They couldn't fathom what kind of individuals could commit such gruesome acts. Looking up, they saw the leader of this community perched on a mountaintop, his head split open with a crow feasting on his flesh. It was a scene of unimaginable cruelty. In an effort to alleviate the man's suffering, Madison ended his life. Even though Madison had seen the horrors of zombies in the last days, she was still shocked by these scenes. As they were about to depart, a group of individuals blocked their path. No need to think that this is the work of the group in front of them. The leader is called Kalitaka. Kalitaka said, "You only saw me being cruel. Did you see how many of us he killed?" Troy thought they had a fighting chance, but when he looked up, he saw a mountain of people surrounding them.
Disarm, disarm.
Troy had to give the order to lay down their weapons, but Kalitaka demanded that they take off their shoes. He claimed that the land where the farm was located belonged to them and insisted that the people from the farm should leave immediately. Otherwise, they would be fed to the crows. The following day, Alicia, who hadn't slept well the entire night due to worry about her mother, noticed several figures resembling zombies on the horizon. They were Madison and the others, who had come back on foot. The residents of the farm hurriedly came out to greet their loved ones. When Jeremiah inquired about what had transpired, Troy suggested a private conversation elsewhere. However, one of their group members, Mike, spoke up.
Slaughter them.
All right.
They slaughtered all of them.
We made it home, huh? There's nothing we can't handle.
They're dead. They're all dead.
Mike, lock your shit down. Lock it down.
They're dead. And we're gonna die too if we don't leave.
As night fell, the farm's surroundings were illuminated by numerous bonfires, a sign of Kalataka declaring war. Panic spread among the farm's residents, most of whom had sought refuge there without experiencing the cruelties of the outside world. Faced with external threats, they only wished to escape. Many people began rushing to the farm's warehouse to grab supplies. Jeremiah's two sons also had conflicting opinions. Jake, the elder son, advocated for negotiations to avoid war, while Troy, the younger one, wanted to take up arms and fight back. First to leave the farm was Vernon, one of the founders. Vernon has seen the brutality of Kalataka and others, and now he just wants to get his family out of here.
Keep that gate closed to me.
Your father gave the okay.
I don't give a damn. You open that gate and I shoot.
Although Troy was reluctant to let them go, Jeremiah's persuasion ultimately convinced him to allow them to depart. The next day, Nick and Jeremiah surprisingly discovered a horse near the farm's perimeter. Jeremiah immediately instructed Nick to fetch his mother, as he knew this horse was part of the property taken by Vernon when he left. And now this horse shows up in this place. Unsure, Madison and Jeremiah head out the way they left to check it out. The Vernon family was killed on the road. The entire family of four met their demise and turned into zombies. Looking at this girl who was the same age as her daughter, Madison couldn't bear to do it. However, Jeremiah and Nick knew that it wasn't Kalataka's doing. It was likely the actions of Jeremiah's younger son, Troy, who didn't allow anyone to escape without a fight. Soon the trio drove back to the farm and brought back the family's bodies. They didn't expose Troy's actions. Madison began to show off her oratory skills by pinning the blame on Kalataka. Madison told the others that leaving would lead to brutal killings by those people. With our numbers and weapons, we have the advantage, and we should protect our homeland. It must be said that Madison's political maneuvering was indeed effective. Those who had previously plundered supplies returned them. Alicia, somewhat naively, believed that Kalataka was truly responsible for the incident. She and Jake secretly slipped out to seek negotiations with the Native Americans to peacefully resolve the situation. After crossing a mountain, they came across their camp, which surprisingly had no walls. They surrendered their weapons and were led to meet the leader, Kalataka. Alicia's first impression was that this man, wielding a machete, looked exceptionally fierce. The three of them quickly reached the negotiation phase. During the conversation, they learned that the feud between Kalataka and Jeremiah was a generational conflict, and the land in question had originally belonged to the Native Americans. However, they had suffered unfair treatment. Jake made it clear that he was dedicated to a peaceful resolution and didn't want war. Chief Kalataka isn't quite as unreasonable as he seems, and is willing to make a deal with Jake. At this point, Alicia noticed someone. It was Ophelia, the same person who had left the hotel earlier, and Daniel's beloved daughter. The two of them quickly began to catch up. Ophelia claimed that the Native Americans here were good people. Alicia questioned how they could be considered good when they had killed a family just 2 days ago. Ophelia retorted that there had been no missions for a few days, so how could they have killed the people on the farms? Alicia fell into deep thought. Soon Jake and Kalataka's negotiations ended amicably. That's what Jake wanted to see. A peaceful resolution to the feud. Alicia voluntarily stayed behind as a hostage. Jake returned with Ophelia to negotiate with Jeremiah. As long as they could convince Jeremiah to accept the terms, there would be no need for a war. When Jack returned to the farm, Madison and Nick confronted him about why he had left Alicia there as a hostage. Jake insisted that Alicia was in no danger. Alicia wasn't being held captive. Kalataka took her on a tour of their repairing aircraft. As Alicia looked at the bullet holes on the plane's surface, she said, "When you attacked this aircraft, I was up there too, and you killed my family." Kalataka didn't apologize. At that time, they believed that everyone on the plane was from the farm. As Alicia delved deeper into understanding, she discovered that these people were not villains. They were mostly just defending themselves and fighting back. Alicia, instead of being held captive, was treated with courtesy. However, in her mother Madison's eyes, Kalataka's team was a group of irredeemable savages. Madison was deeply concerned for her daughter's safety and sought out Troy to secretly organize a rescue mission for Alicia. Troy, who had a penchant for violence, was initially hesitant due to his father's delegation of the matter to Jake for negotiation. However, Madison assured him that she would support his bid for control over the farm in the future.
You, me, Nick, a few of your guys, we slip in, we bring her back.
No, drive down on her head.
And? Don't you want that?
Troy is a madman. As night fell, Alicia fed leftover food to the pigs, and someone covered her mouth and took her away. It was Troy, and Alicia ceased to struggle. They had also abducted a Native American warrior, and considering Troy's tendencies, he was likely to kill the captive. Alicia quickly intervened, trying to prevent Troy, as killing the Native American would further strain relations with their group, who were not bad people. In the end, Troy cut his throat. Just as a man was about to realize something was wrong, Nick pounced from behind as soon as but Nick was no match for the warrior. He was pinned down in 3 rounds, and a dagger was thrust at Nick. Just as Nick couldn't hold on any longer, shots rang out and Troy saved him. The gunshot alerted the entire camp, leading to an intense gunfight between the two groups. Madison drove over to meet them, and they eventually retreated without incident. However, 5 or 6 of the Native American warriors lost their lives in the confrontation. Upon returning to the farm late at night, Jake and Jeremiah were furious upon learning of the incident. What was once a peaceful situation had turned chaotic.
Place to make the call. I made a deal with that guy.
Against your father's wishes.
To save all of us.
He played you. Walker wasn't gonna negotiate with you. You never had anything. There was nothing at stake except Alicia's life.
The following day, Jake prepared a truckload of fresh water as a peace offering. He intended to go and apologize, fully aware that the Native Americans were on the brink of anger and that he might not return from this risky mission. Jake brought Ophelia to the camp, and just as he got out of the car, he got beaten up real bad. Kalataka demanded that Jake pay the price for breaking their agreement. He sliced open Jake's forehead and intended to feed him to the crows in a brutal manner. At this point, Jake resigned himself to his fate.
Tell your father I'll finish the scalping of his eldest son when I see him next. We'll cut apart his youngest son and feed him to the hogs. Tell your father he will remain alive. Watch this. Before we burn him.
The following day, a motorcycle arrived at the farm's gate, bearing a white flag and leaving a person behind before quickly departing. Ophelia explained that they suspected her of revealing their camp's secrets, leading to the successful attack. So they dumped me back here to fend for myself. To prevent further Native American attacks, Troy had to step up his patrols next. Will the farm hold? Will Madison destroy the community again?